Everyone heard the rumors about that night, but the real story is far more surprising. The rain began just after midnight, the kind of slow, steady rain that turns city lights into blurry streaks of color. Most people were already asleep, unaware that something unusual was unfolding in the quiet corners of the night. But for one man walking alone under a flickering street lamp, that night would become a memory he could never erase. Years later, people would still whisper about it, asking the same question again and again. What really happened that night? Before we continue, take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss stories that touch the heart. The city felt strangely empty that night. The streets that were normally alive with noise had fallen silent, as if the world itself had paused for a moment. Daniel, a 32-year-old man with tired eyes and an old brown jacket soaked by the rain, walked slowly down the sidewalk. His hair was messy, his shoes worn, and his shoulders carried the invisible weight of years of disappointment. Life had not been kind to Daniel. Just 3 months earlier, he had lost his job at a small repair shop that had suddenly shut down. The owner had apologized, but apologies didn't pay rent. Soon after, the small apartment Daniel had struggled to afford slipped out of his hands as well. The landlord had given him time, but time eventually runs out. Now Daniel spent most nights wandering the streets, trying to figure out where life had gone wrong. That night, though, something felt different. Maybe it was the rain. Maybe it was the silence. Or maybe it was the strange feeling that the night itself was waiting for something to happen. As Daniel walked past a small park surrounded by tall trees, he heard something unusual. At first it was faint, almost lost in the sound of rain tapping against metal benches. But when he stopped and listened closely, he realized it was the sound of someone crying. Daniel hesitated. In the past few months he had learned something about the world. Most people avoided problems that weren't their own. It would have been easy to keep walking. After all, he had his own struggles to deal with. But something inside him refused to move. Slowly, he stepped toward the park entrance. The dim park lights flickered softly as Daniel walked along the wet path. The crying sound became clearer, and soon he saw a small figure sitting alone on a bench. It was a young girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, wearing a thin blue hoodie far too light for the cold rain. Her dark hair was wet, sticking to her face, and her small hands trembled as she tried to wipe away tears. For a moment, Daniel froze. Seeing a child alone at this hour was something that immediately filled him with concern. His mind raced with questions. Where were her parents? Why was she here? Daniel approached slowly, careful not to frighten her. He kept a safe distance and gently spoke in a calm voice, asking if she was okay. The girl looked up, her eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. For a second it seemed like she might run away. But instead she stayed still, staring at Daniel as if trying to decide whether he could be trusted. The rain continued falling around them, soft but relentless. After a few quiet moments, the girl slowly explained that she had become separated from her mother earlier that evening. They had been at a nearby bus station, and in the crowded confusion she had wandered the wrong direction. By the time she realized it, her mother was gone. She had tried to find her way back, but the streets all looked the same in the dark. Daniel felt a tight knot form in his chest. The world could be a dangerous place, especially for someone so small and alone. The thought that she had been wandering in the rain for hours made him feel a deep sense of responsibility. Despite his own troubles, Daniel knew one thing clearly in that moment: he couldn't walk away. So he offered the girl his old jacket to keep her warm and gently told her they would find help together. They walked slowly out of the park and toward a small convenience store on the corner that still had its lights on. The store owner, a middle-aged man who had known the neighborhood for years, immediately understood the situation and allowed them to use the phone. After a few calls to local services and nearby stations, they began the process of trying to locate the girl's mother. Time passed slowly. Outside, the rain grew heavier and thunder rumbled somewhere in the distance. Daniel sat quietly near the door, watching the girl sip a warm drink the store owner had given her. For the first time since he had met her, she looked slightly calmer, but the night was far from over. Nearly an hour later, the store door suddenly burst open. A woman rushed inside, completely soaked from the rain, her face pale with worry and exhaustion. The moment her eyes landed on the girl, everything else seemed to disappear. The girl ran toward her mother instantly. The relief in that moment was impossible to describe. The woman held her daughter tightly, as if afraid she might vanish again if she let go. Tears mixed with rain on her face as she thanked Daniel again and again. For Daniel, the moment felt strangely surreal. He had simply done what he believed anyone should do. But the woman's gratitude was overwhelming. She explained that she had searched everywhere for hours. Police had already been alerted, and the entire situation had turned into a desperate race against time. If Daniel hadn't heard the crying in the park, the night might have ended very differently. But what happened next was something Daniel never expected. After the initial relief settled, the woman noticed Daniel's soaked clothes and the quiet way he sat alone near the door. She asked about him. At first, Daniel tried to brush the question aside, but eventually he admitted that life had been difficult recently. He spoke honestly about losing his job, losing his apartment, and feeling like the world had slowly closed its doors on him. The woman listened carefully. Then she said something that surprised him. She told Daniel that kindness like his was rare. The world needed more people who cared about others even when their own lives were falling apart. She also revealed that she managed a community organization that helped people find work and temporary housing during difficult times. That night, the woman made a simple offer. She asked Daniel to visit the center the next morning. At first, he wasn't sure what to say. Life had disappointed him many times before, and hope was something he had learned to avoid. But something about that night felt different. Maybe it was the rain finally stopping. Maybe it was the way the girl waved goodbye with a small smile before leaving. Or maybe it was the quiet realization that sometimes one small act of kindness can change the direction of an entire life. The next morning, Daniel walked to the address the woman had given him. What he found there was the beginning of something he had almost forgotten how to believe in: opportunity. Within weeks, Daniel had found steady work helping repair equipment at the community center. His skills from the old shop turned out to be exactly what they needed. Soon after, he was offered a small room in a nearby housing program while he rebuilt his life. Months passed, then a year. Slowly, everything began to change. Daniel saved money, regained stability, and eventually moved into a small apartment of his own again. But the most important change wasn't financial. It was the feeling that his life mattered again, all because of one rainy night. Years later, people in the neighborhood would still talk about that story. Some remembered the missing child incident that had briefly appeared in local news. Others remembered the man who had helped when no one else was around. But most people never knew the full story. They never knew how close Daniel had been to giving up on life that night before hearing a small voice crying in the rain. Sometimes the smallest moments carry the biggest turning points. If this story touched your heart in any way, please take a moment to like the video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe for more meaningful stories like this. And before we end, I have a special request for you. Comment the word kindness below if you believe one small good deed can truly change someone's life. Because sometimes the answer to life's biggest question isn't complicated at all. What really happened that night? A stranger chose kindness. And because of that single choice, 2 lives quietly found their way back to hope.